You've heard me talk about her before. I mean, there's things in her prophecies and in her visions that I don't agree with, and this could be because she made mistakes. It could be because the person who wrote down her visions made mistakes or added things. I actually think that's pretty probable. So do a lot of other people. So, I don't always bank on Emmerich, but I read her, I study her, and sometimes I am pretty impressed. So, Anne Catherine Emmerich also speaks of this great monarch. She writes, I had another vision of the great tribulation. I saw the battle also. The enemies were far more numerous, but the small army of the faithful cut down the whole rows of enemy soldiers. During the battle, the Blessed Virgin stood on a hill wearing a suit of armor. It was a terrible war. At the end, only a few fighters for the just cause survived, but the victory was theirs. I love this because the Blessed Virgin Mary is wearing armor. Love it. Now, here is, to me, of all the prophecies that I'm sharing with you today, to me, this is the coolest one. Here goes, Anne Catherine Emmerich. I have a vision of the Holy Emperor Henry. She calls him Henry. I saw him at night, kneeling alone at the foot of the main altar in a great and beautiful church. And I saw the Blessed Virgin coming down all alone. She laid on the altar a red cloth covered with white linen. She placed a book inlaid with precious stones. She lit the candles and the perpetual lamp. Then came the Savior himself, clad in priestly vestments. He was carrying the chalice and the veil. 2 angels were serving him, with 2 more following. His chasuble was full and a heavy mantle, in which red and white could be seen in transparency, and gleaming with jewels. So this is Our Lady coming to the great monarch, and then he sees a mass beginning, and Jesus is wearing the chasuble, and he's attended by 4 angels. His chasuble is white and red. Although there was no altar bell, the cruets were there. The wine was red as blood, and there was also some water. The mass was short. The Gospel of St. John was not read at the end. I'm going to pause here. This is interesting. The last gospel at this mass was omitted. I don't know why. Leave a comment. Tell me why you think it is. When the mass had ended, Mary came up to Henry, that's the great monarch, and she extended her right hand towards him, saying that it was in recognition of his purity. Then she urged him not to falter. Thereupon I saw an angel, and he touched the sinew of his hip, like Jacob. He was in great pain, and from that day on, he walked with a limp. End quote. All right. Sorry, there's terrible noise outside because of lawnmowers or something. So what happens is Our Lady comes to Henry. He's praying. He sees a vision of Jesus saying a mass. The last gospel of St. John is omitted. So for those of you that go to the traditional Latin mass, there's always a last gospel at the end. The opening of St. John's gospel. And Our Lady reaches out and touches his hip. Now, this goes back to Jacob in the Old Testament. And from that day on, he walks with a limp. He's a wounded soldier. He's a wounded king. And this is in a bunch of the other prophecies too. I've seen this as well, that he walks with a limp, that he's wounded. And this is, I think, a reminder to him that he is weak without Christ. He is weak without God.